Hi, I'm Stephanie from museums.love, and today I want to go with you into the Humboldt Forum in Berlin. This is one of the newest additions to Berlin's museum landscape, but it isn't exactly a museum itself. It's got a lot in common with museums. It has exhibitions, a shop, cafes, but the exhibitions belong to several different institutions. 3 of them are museums, 1 is a university, and 1 is a foundation. So this complex has something in common with that other very Berlin phenomenon, the co-working space, in which multiple participants share common facilities. And it's the architecture of this space that I want to look at today with you. Not just the architecture of this building, but also of the previous historical buildings that stood on this spot before. The history of the site stretches back almost 1,000 years. Fragments of some of these earlier buildings are exhibited in the Humboldt Forum as a self-guided tour called The History of the Site. So let's look at some highlights from that tour together to discover some of the history of what used to be on this site over the past 1,000 years. We're starting in the basement of the Humboldt Forum. Basements are great for learning about history because they're safe underground, so even if the above-ground building is destroyed, as happened here multiple times, everything that's in the basement can stay preserved. This basement has been turned into an exhibition showing us the working people who worked down here under often hot, sweaty, very hard conditions while the elite life was going on above ground over their heads. The earliest building on this site was a monastery and a church, and these brick walls belong to that phase in the Middle Ages. You can look through time into what the monks were doing back then on the digital screens that are in the exhibition. Monks worked down here in the wine cellars, tapping wine and preparing it to be brought upstairs to partake in the mass that was being celebrated over their heads. Later, the monastery and the church were replaced with the city palace of Berlin. The original city palace was the home of the ruler from the Middle Ages all the way until World War I. This archaeological basement is full of traces of the city palace. First of all, its massive foundations, but also traces of the working life down here as we saw in the earlier period too. We can see the remains of a kitchen, also the guards' quarters where the Imperial Guard went to eat and rest between shifts. It's wonderful to see these features as the center of the exhibition because it's a very necessary counterweight to the elite life that we're more used to thinking of when we think of a city palace. Things like the statues that were once on the facade and have now been reconstructed as part of the modern Humboldt Forum facade. So the first building on this site was the monastery, the second was the city palace, and the third was the so-called Palast der Republik, the Palace of the Republic. This was built in East Germany after the old city palace had been demolished. You can see the craters clearly in the basement. That was, of course, a sign of the monarchy, and so the new palace that replaced it was a sign of the people. This new building was multifunctional. The People's Parliament met in one part of it, but the other parts were leisure spaces, like restaurants and bowling alleys. We've popped up from the basement to see the traces of the Palace of the Republic in this very stylish sign, showing the way to the bowling alley, the restaurants, and also showing whether they're full to capacity. Like the city palace, the Palace of the Republic was also demolished, and in its place rose the Humboldt Forum that we see today. I strongly encourage you to try the self-guided tour on your own if you can. There's a ton that we could not cover in the video today. And as a bonus, a lot of the exhibited objects are in hallways or in the spaces between exhibitions, so you don't even have to buy a ticket to get in. Find out more about it online at museums.love. I'll see you there.